Al, you had your week off last week.
I did. Thank you.
I mean, not really, but technically for us, you did.
I got to take it easy last week.
You got to take it easy. Now I get to take it easy. I'm going to put my feet up and just relax.
Well, you still have to pay attention.
Honk shoe.
Oh, heck.
It is time for Al to talk about more Otome games. And by more, I mean just one, because that's how many she's gotten through.
Yep. I still have a backlog, but,
You got it. You still have a backlog. It's piled straight to the sky.
not that high. My goodness.
There is a pile, though.
There's a pile. I'm looking at it right now. There's three of
Yes.
them, and then there's another one coming out next month.
Yeah, so it's going to keep growing.
Yes, I got to start another one soon.
You sure
I,
do.
I can't decide which one I want to play next, so I've
Mm-hmm.
been indecisive, and I'm like,
Yep, that's exactly the noise you made. Uh-huh.
yep, yep. So
Anyways, hello, welcome to this week's episode of Seasonal Anime Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. Hello, I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc Owl and Ladium.
hello.
This is episode 348, and we are talking about Radiant Tail.
hmm I've been calling it "How to Date Your Dragon."
I mean, that also tracks as well. Very briefly before we dive into this,
Yeah.
after last week, Al played A Space for the Unbound and said she liked it, so there's that.
Yes, that is true. I did play it and I enjoyed it, and it's strange to be on the other side of some of those conversations.
Yes.
But now I know. It was a very, very lovely game. Highly
Mhm.
recommend people play it.
Yeah, so there you go. Update from the previous week. But anyways,
Breaking news.
uh,
Now we're gonna go to a circus.
yeah, we got to go to the circus, Otome Circus, because
Toy
Otome is
circus.
always a circus in a way.
You know what though? This one doesn't have the same kind of like Atome twists in it that I've come to expect.
That's pretty wild to say when this is a game centered around a circus, and also
Yes,
one of the datables is a literal dragon.
a literal dragon.
So, little strange to hear that come out of your mouth.
Let me read to you the box description.
All right.
It says, "You must step in to save a failing circus. All they have are a too serious clown, a non-magical magician, a crazed dragon, a subdued acrobat, a fuzzy mascot, and a reluctant ringleader. Can you help this dysfunctional troupe create their greatest performance?"
No.
Um, yes, I can, and I did. So yeah, those are what they call them. Although I will argue against Eon being an acrobat. He's more like he does like martial arts moves to pull off firkin his fancy circus stuff. Which is not really acrobatics in the traditional circus sense.
I mean, it does say here on his on the page on the website that he does specialize in martial arts performances. So
Oh, okay. So that's probably a better representation. Also the clown has a boob window, and I just have to bring that up now before I forget. Zephora has a boob window.
yeah, you're not wrong. That
You
is
see
definitely
it?
a boob window.
That is a boob window right there. That dude
Because
is
sure, thinking he's Clive Final Fantasy over here.
yeah, he is, except for he doesn't have the broad chest like that.
No.
No, I mean, not everybody can be a Clive, right?
I mean,
Um,
you can work for it. You can work to get that, but
do some weight lifting.
yeah, probably.
I don't know, how do you get a big chest? Um, but yeah, this game did not have as many of the big twists as I would expect from a Toei game. I was like, huh, okay. Like it's pretty, I don't want to say vanilla, but it's kind of
Straightforward.
yeah, that's a better way to put it. Like obviously every character has a little bit of a twist to them. And how it really works is that you you start off in like the capital city and you find out like you're going to be an assistant, you're going to help like do the programming for this circus. They have to go to the four big cities of the country, and they come back to the capital, finish it up, and they're trying to unfreeze the heart of the prince, who is supposed to be 17 years old, but he's physically 7 and is kind of a living doll at the moment. And they think that if they are able to like bloom these like happiness flowers, that they can give the nectar to him and it will unfreeze his heart. So that's your goal, and that's like the common route is getting through the cities.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I do like how the way they spell circus is just all in all caps, as just if
all
like
caps.
it's an acronym of something, or you're just yelling circus the whole time.
You,
Like
you're just yelling circus.
she is thrust into her new job as circuses producer.
That's how I was always reading it, just yelling. Um, yeah. And so each city is like based off of um I guess famous cities. And each one is tied to tied to a dude. Um so like you have one that's based off of I think Alexandria, and that's tied to Roddy. You have one that's based, it seems like Paris, and it's Sephora. You have one that's Venice, and that's Passalia. You have one that is Rome, and it's Eon. So you go to these different cities, you find out like what's going on with these cities. You get some of the backstory on the guy, and then depending on what you have done along the common route, you either continue doing things with the other dudes or whatever. Um, because in every single route, you're able to heal the frozen heart of the prince. And then when he like wakes up, he realizes like, oh, I'm still in the body of a 7-year-old, even though I'm supposed to be 17. They're like, well, what if he just joins circus and goes along with you and tries to like get stronger as a person so that his body will come back?
Yeah, that's how that works.
Yep, yep. So, whatever you got to do after the common route, you're doing it with one of these main guys and trying to make the prince less 7-year-old. I told you before we started recording that I decided in this game that Tifalia is 19. I cannot be convinced otherwise. I'm reading what it says on the website.
It's a typo.
It's
They
a
just
typo.
flipped the number.
There's no narrative reason for her to be 16. And it makes a lot of these interactions with people really creepy if she's 16.
Yeah.
I mean, one of them's already kind of creepy, but I'll get into that. But if she's 19, it makes me feel a little bit better because like Vilio's around 19. I think Sephora's around 19. I could just like look on here and see what their ages are. Passalia is 20. Eon is 22. So that's a little pushing it, but you know, um, it makes it a little less yikes.
Yes.
Also worth mentioning, there is a fan disc coming out on this. And I mentioned to you again before we started recording that there's one thing about it that I really like, and then there's one thing about it that I really dislike.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want first?
Give me the like first.
The like first. There is a character in this game who is named Leon.
S. Kennedy.
You rookie ass cop. He runs a tavern called Cheers. Yep, he sure does. And there's a branch in every city, and he is delightful. And the description on here doesn't do him a lot of justice. So, like, he often flirts with her, but it isn't certain whether he truly has feelings for her or not. I would kind of disagree with that. But anyway, um, throughout every route, he is just so fun. And I was so disappointed when I saw him. I was like, why can't I date you? I want to date you. Forget these guys. I want to date you. Um, but they wouldn't. So the fan disc, he is dateable. He has a route, which is honestly how it should have been all along.
I can't wait for that route to be how he ends up in the Frasier reboot.
Um, so that's my positive.
Uh-huh.
My negative,
Do you have to date the prince?
no, you don't date a prince.
Okay, that's what I was thinking the negative was going to be.
I'm kind of surprised that you wouldn't date the prince because they do have a model for him at 17.
Mm-hmm.
And, given the age, like, even though, she's 19, she's not 16, but still. No, the leader of circus, Jania, um, he has a route. And as I was going through all these routes and the common route, and there's even like a common route ending that kind of talks with him a lot. He feels very queer coded to me. And there's one character in particular that he's like always with, and they grew up together. They're always hanging out together, and I'm like, are we doing this and just not saying it explicitly? Is that what's happening? And I mean, I guess like, you know, bi dudes exist. That is a real thing. But I never got that vibe off of him because he doesn't express any interest in you whatsoever, and he doesn't express any interest in anybody else except for that one guy.
Is it possible like that it's a route and then the idea that like it's just more story for this character and not like a romance route?
No, it's a romance route.
Ah, nahone.
Um, I went on the subreddit to see if it was like an actual route or because like I said, the common route of this game, like the one that you get if you're trying to go for Vilio, but you haven't unlocked him yet, you end up just like palling around with Ginia like a lot. And it's fine. He's a lot of fun, but like he comes across way more wingman for everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Or in one instance, he's like very protective of Tifalia and her feelings, but like he never comes across as somebody who's like, I have feelings for you, as opposed to like Leon, who's very explicitly like interested in you and talking to you a lot about like romance and that kind of thing. There are like three things that interest Genia, and that's his skincare routine, wine, and Alice. Those are like the three things that he will talk about besides like trying to help you out with the dudes. So it feels kind of like to me that I'm not buying that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would have been really cool to keep him queer coded.
Yeah.
But I guess they, probably want to sell merch and all that.
Yeah.
So I am honestly surprised they did not do a older Prince route for the fan disc. Because that feels like something that would have happened, and I feel like he would have been a more natural fit because he actually does like hang out with her quite a lot and ends up like coming into his own with the help of her and all that. So I don't know. I will probably play it just because I want to date Leon.
S. Kennedy.
Yes, I definitely do. Which reminds me, I have that Resident Evil 4 Otome game I need to eventually play. Um,
is this fan disc like announced to come out over here, or is it just only in Japan right now?
I don't even think it's out in Japan. I think it's
Oh, okay,
announced in
okay.
Japan.
I didn't know if
But
like it was one of those deals or what.
yeah. I don't even think it's out there yet, but
Gotcha.
I assume it will probably come here. If this one did decently well at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, that's that's that. Um, so yeah, the routes are fine. The guys are fine. There's only one that I find like really problematic, I suppose, which I guess is fine. Um, and when I say that it's problematic, I actually really like the character and I really like the way that he interacts with her. I just have a real issue with the story.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so how this really breaks down is like I said, you're going to these big cities. One of them has he's called a sentinel, the labyrinth sentinel. His name's Balto. Um, and he's kind of like a dictator of this town, and there's this like illness going around that makes people do things that they wouldn't normally do, and usually it's illegal activity. There's this like drug trading going on. And you find out that like Zephora is the rightful labyrinth sentinel, that he was raised to be the next one, and that it's a hereditary role. But that Balto like sent Zephora off on like a, I don't know what the word is. Basically like one of those things where you go tour around cities as a teenager. It was like an old thing that rich European people did.
All right.
Um, it's true, it is what they did. Um, and then when he got back, he's like, "Hey, hello, where are my parents? Why are you in charge?" He's like, "Ah, yeah, I sent you away. I killed your parents. Now I'm the leader. Goodbye." Um, so obviously that's not good. And you just kind of leave it at that when you leave the city. You find out that like Zephora wants to get this this gun, this special gun that is called like the Eliminator or something like that, that can get the necklace off of Balto. So he wants to take his leadership role back. Um, Passalia is in the water city, Venice based city. And everybody is very selfish there. They don't take any of the traditional vows of the fancy water lady anymore, and they throw trash everywhere, and all of the Fae spirits are sad. So he does this entire campaign about like, hey, recycling is nice, and you should be nice to the Fae and stop being so selfish. Thumbs up. Um, Eons is the like Colosseum Rome area, and it's a city that's like only the strong survive type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you get his backstory here that like, oh wow, turns out that he was in like a secret underground gladiator like slave ring, um, and has like this brand on his eye, which is under the eye patch, and that the ring that's supposed to be associated with the city that should go to the king has been missing, and that ring can mind control anybody who has been branded with it, which is him. And the federal government that is not actually a federal government, the king, I guess, um, did a raid on that and shut down all the underground um, Coliseum stuff. And the city is very resentful of the monarchy for that. Eon is pretending that he is actually like a security guy, but he is actually a former gladiator, an X rank gladiator. He murdered a lot of people. Um, Kind of problematic that the only like dark skinned guy in this was a slave.
Yeah.
But there's that. And that's not even the one that I was like, oh, this is a kind of a problematic route. Um, and then we have Roddy, who I did find his real name. That is Relita. Relita is his real name. Roddy is a pink, fluffy boy. He's he looks like a Pokemon.
Gotta catch them all.
Uh, I mean, look at him. Doesn't he look like a Pokemon?
Yes.
He's like some kind of like evolution or something. Um, he is basically Tefalia's best friend. They've been together for supposedly 10 years. He helps out around the restaurant slash inn that her aunt runs. And supposedly he cannot convert into his human form. That's a lie. He can. It's a lie.
A lie.
He's a very sharp man when he switches into his human form. Um, he's a very sharp jaw. And he's tied to the Scholar City, but it's not even really worth talking about until like I actually talk about his route. All it is to say is that all the scholars are super obsessed with Fae and have been like torturing them, trying to research what they're about, which is kind of fucked up. Anyway, you get through all of these, you bloom the thing, you give it to the prince, he's awake. Oh boy! And then you get into your individual routes. And the prince has joined circus and he is going to be doing his magic to try and get big again. So I started with Zephora, the clown man,
Boob window.
boob window. And he's definitely your tsundere character. Like 1,000%, that's what he is. And a lot of his route is he gets the gun from the king, but the prince is the one who has to like make the magic bullets for it. And the prince isn't strong enough to do that yet. So like they're trying to train him while also doing like circus shows, while also trying to figure out like what the Balto's up to. Um, and his route is boring, I suppose, because he just doesn't really drop the tsundere part ever. And so I'm like, do you actually like me? Like, what is happening here? And then it's even more clear or even more unclear by the end. Um, because yeah, you're able to eventually make the bullets. You're able to get Balto out of the way. There's some chaos with the labyrinth that happens. Um, I'm doing the speed run of this route. He fakes being drunk at one point so that he can confess to you and smooch you under the stars. Um, and then you get to the end, and he's like staying in the city doing something else. So Tifalia goes back to her aunt and the restaurant and everything. They don't talk for a year. In both of his endings, the good ending and the normal ending, they do not talk at all for a year. No letters, no meeting up, nothing. And I'm like, you just had me do an entire romance route with this clown man who doesn't even seem to like me, and then we don't talk for a year in the good ending? What is this? And he's like, well, I didn't really know how to bring it up. You know, we kind of kissed back there. And it's like, yeah, that's probably a good reason why you should have brought it up, my guy. Um, but yeah, then he takes over as Sentinel and like does this weird thing where it's like, oh, well, you could come help me around the house and you could help me be a secretary and all that. And she's like, are you just trying to give me a job? Like, what is happening here? And he's like, no, I'm trying to like get you to come live with me. Like, just say that then, my guy. Say that. That's all you gotta do. I was so mad. A year. They went a whole year with zero communication. She talked to Geneva more than that, and he wasn't even a love interest. Anyway, so what happens when you take the tsundere too far?
Mm-hmm.
You don't talk for a year. In his normal ending, which I'm not going to remember all the normal endings for all these guys, but I will say there are no bad endings, which is good. But in the normal ending, Jania basically sets it up. It's like, hey, I need you to like go do this thing for me in this city. Will you go do that? That'd be great. She's like, okay, sure. I'll pack a bag for an overnight and go deliver this thing. And then when she shows up and gives the package, it's like, oh, she's your new secretary. Have fun. She's like, I only packed for one night, and what is happening? So again, Jania trying to wingman. Um, yeah, so I got the clown out of the way. And then I went to Phasalia, who was one of my favorite in terms of like the actual romantic parts of it. Um, and I didn't know what his deal was because it's very unclear to me what he actually did until I actually got to his route. Like I said, the box says that he's a non-magical magician. He is contracted with a water spirit, is what they try and explain at the beginning, which is why he has like this really pretty blue watery hair. Um, but he's apparently a conductor of sorts. Um, but he has water magic. Um, and this is probably the one that you know the most about because I talked about him a little bit. Um, but he is trying to find a very strong water magic user. It's like part of his pilgrimage type thing. I don't know. You find out that like this water contracted spirit thing that he has going on is actually not what you would think it is. They did the forbidden thing, which is a Fey synchronization. Because turns out this boy is thirsty. He has a disease that essentially drains his body of liquid.
Yeah, that's not funny. How dare we laugh?
So like when you see him when he does like in the flashbacks and all that, or like the one time where he like almost runs out of um Vita's magic that keeps him watery. Um, his skin gets all like cracked and dry, and he's like a ashy brown hair color, all that. Anyway, he's like cracking, he's falling apart. Because of this thirsty disease. And so the synchronization is supposed to at least keep him alive long enough for him to find this like magic user that will make him all better. Um, he ends up like passing out at one point and they take him to his hometown. They're like, "Hey, so this seems bad, huh?" He's like, "Yeah, we're running out of time. I've got this hourglass on my hip that represents how much time Vita has left, and Vita didn't have a whole lot of time left, so we gotta figure something out, or I'm just gonna die." Um, and he explains that like his ultimate goal was to like go on adventures with his friends. So if he does die, he's fine with it because that's what he got to do with circus is go on adventures with his friends and travel around and all. And Tefali's like, hey, maybe no, maybe don't die. And his mom like has her stay at the house or is planning to have her stay at the house because she says it's sad that they're making this girl stay outside in the tents with them. Um, but then she basically like confesses to him in his house, and he's like, you deserve better than me, so no, I'm good. Which makes her sad.
Sad, sad, sad.
So she tries to like go back to being friends, and of course everyone's like, this is awkward. What happened here? Um, they decide that they're gonna go back to the water town and see if they can like borrow the earrings that are the like spiritual jewelry of this town. So like I said, there was the necklace in the previous one. There's the ring with the one that's Rome. There's like a wand for the scholar town, and then this one is earrings. And they're like, well, if you wear the earrings, then that will give you enough water magic that like you'll be okay for a while. That'd be cool, right? So they go there, and the like water spirit lady that runs this town's like, nah, 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 you can't have these. Why would I let you have these? Why? Why? And they try and explain it, and she's like, okay, well, here's the deal. I want to see some true love. That's what I'm interested in. And then, if you could show me that, then maybe you can have the earrings. Um, so what she ends up doing is she takes Tifalia and puts her in a bubble. And Tifalia can breathe in this bubble, but she has a very limited amount of time. And she sends her out into the ocean. And she basically says, Pasalia, you can breathe underwater now for a minute. If you can find her before sundown, then, you can have the earrings. Everything's fine. If you can't find her before that, then she dies. Have fun. Which is, sure. Um, they have previously given each other like these souvenir, um, like replicas of the earrings. Like she has one and he has one. And they're supposed to turn very dark blue if the feelings are reciprocated. And so he's like swimming around, he can't find her, and she's freaking out because she's starting to not be able to breathe. And um if you pick the choices of like believing in him and everything, then the earrings shoot a light to each other and he finds her and then they smooch. And the water spirit lady makes them take like the unbreakable vows. So if they ever break up, then like I don't know, somebody's limb's gonna fall off or something.
I like the idea that you could pick options and be like, I don't believe in him.
You can. That's what leads to
I'm
the norm.
good.
That's what leads to the normal ending. um, but yeah, you're just like, I don't know that he's gonna make it.
I'm just gonna
Um,
die.
I mean, if this game had bad endings, that would have been a really bad ending. Um, but yeah, legit, if you break this vow, like they say that something horrible happens to you, like your limb falls off or stops working or something. And it's like, well, I guess, if they break their vows, maybe he goes back to being thirsty again. I don't know. Um, but she basically like completely repairs his illness so he doesn't need the earrings. Um, he's he's gonna be He's gonna be all good now. He's no longer thirsty, except for Tifalia, because now he's like, "Hey, you want to get married?" And they get married as a circus event.
He's thirsty in a new way.
He's thirsty in a new way. Now he's like, "I know what it's like to have my skin and body nourished. Now I am thirsty for a gal." He is one of the only ones that like actively shows like affection. So there's that. I'll give him that. Um, I liked him. He's what's a nice way to put this? He's kind of dumb. Naive is probably a better way to put it. He's naive. Um, there are a lot of himbos in this game. But yeah, he was fine. I didn't mind him.
Of all the dudes, he was one of them.
Of all the dudes, he was one of them. Um, Eon's route has a lot of violence in it. I'm sure you're not surprised.
No. Man's holding
Um,
like a halberd axe in his picture.
yeah, he is. That's what he uses. Um, so with his route, you're trying to find the ring that's been missing so that you can not have somebody else control him. Because initially the king's like, "Hey, everybody else can go do the circus thing with the prince, but you can't go because you're a danger to him." And he's like, "Okay, I understand." Everybody else protests, so he gets to go, but they have to find the ring so that they can make sure that he can't be controlled. So they go back to the town where he's from, and they end up like doing research to figure out where this ring is, and they find out that Balto, the guy from the labyrinth city, potentially purchased the ring in like um black market deal type thing. And so they travel to that city and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna go see Balto so that we can try and get this ring back. This is gonna be fine." And then they get there and they talk to him for a bit and they're like, "Oh no, oh no, this girl from the other route, her name is Luna. Is that Luna? She is a small child and she murdered that guy." She shows up and she's just like covered in blood from head to toe. And she's like, "I killed the bad guys and it's fine and I get rewarded for it.
Yay!
Yay!" And they're like, no, this isn't how you handle these things. This is bad." Um, she's like, "No, I've been told that this is the right thing to do, and I have this symbol on me, and it gives me courage. And my dad had this symbol." They're like, "Ah, that's not the symbol. That's the enslavement symbol. Oh no, this is bad. Who could be running these things?" Um, and then Avi shows up and is like, "Oh hi, hello. I was Eon's friend. I was also a gladiator. Also, I have the ring and I am controlling everybody. Hello." Um, he wants to keep the fights going. That is Avi's motivation because he had a twin brother and he was forced to kill his own brother in one of the gladiator fights. And so, because of trauma, for some reason, he's like, "What if I just keep these going?" Because he feels like if they don't keep going, that like his brother died for nothing, which is a strange motivation, but you know, whatever. He has Eon try and kill Tifalia, like chokes her out for some dumb reason, despite the fact that there was an entire thing about like, "Hey, we can't have Eon go with Prince because he could hurt the Prince." They're like, "What if we send Eon and the Prince and Tifalia all together to go do this thing?" It's like, why didn't you send the dragon, who's the literal strongest character in this Atome game, to go with them and not the prince? Bah!
Yeah. Logic.
No. But anyway, she almost gets choked out until Eon's like fighting back mentally that he can't actually kill her. Um, and he does the same thing a few times. Like the other guys get like kidnapped at the same time, and there's a gladiator fight with him and Passalia, and he almost just like straight up murders Passalia, but misses. Um, and then he fights with Vilio because like, "Hey, we want the strongest ex gladiator to fight a dragon." And Vilio has to fight like in his human form because there's not enough room for him to be a dragon. and he gets stabbed in the leggy, which is kind of sad. He passes out. Um, but there's like a throwaway line at one point of like, well, the more people who have the brand, um, the less control that the guy has. And so at one point they're like, okay, well, Luna has one, he has one. And then Tafalia like jumps on Avi's back and like takes his hand and shoves it into her arm and brands herself. Which ends up making it so that Eon's able to like break out of it more and fights back, takes Avi down. Yay, everybody wins. And then they all brand themselves at the end, including the prince, because they're like, well, the more of us that have this brand, the less power this ring has.
For fun.
Yeah, it's like a group tattoo or something, it's for mind control. But then they give the ring to the king. Eon's also a good cook, worth mentioning. I didn't really get a whole lot of like strong romance vibes from this route, but it was fine. It's interesting at least. Which then brings me to the Roddy route. I will preface this by saying that he is my favorite character in this game.
He's a Pokemon.
He's a Pokemon. This route's problematic. Like I said, his real name is Rolita. I'm not gonna remember that, so he's just gonna be Roddy. And you find out in this route that like Roddy's been telling you that he's been with you for 10 years. He can't transform out of his Fae version, and like that's it. He tried to like make you happy because when he met you, you were like a shell of a human, and he was able to finally like break you out of that and make you into a real functional girl again. So turns out most of that is a lie. He can turn into a person and does. He's been able to do that for several years at this point. He has known you almost your whole life, which obviously on my version it means he met you when you were, well, anyway, he's known you for most of your life, and he ends up basically becoming like a guardian for you because her parents are scholars, they're Fae scholars, and they went to go to the Dragon Island, and they ended up getting poisoned by the Dragon Island. And Roddy tried to like heal them, but they died. Except for they didn't actually die. He just thought they did. And then he feels bad, so he like takes care of you. So there are like CGs of him like with you when you're like 4 years old, and he's a grown man. Which I have problems with. I have big problems with that. And there are several mentions of like, yeah, you considered him your big brother. Woo! You find out like, hey, the parents are alive. Velio, since he's a dragon, can like undo the dragon magic. And Roddy's magic like also worked to like keep them alive. And so they come back and they're like, oh, hello, we're your parents. Hi, we're alive. What up? And so Roddy kind of feels like he's like unnecessary at that point because her parents are back. And his entire route has like two bits to it. One of them is that he is a golem made by the like scholar spirit that runs this town. He's like the earth element. And that he was tasked with like getting a human heart essentially. And so he's immortal and has been around for like thousands of years and just kind of like wanders around, and he had never stayed in one spot until he met like her and her parents. Um and he decides in this route that he's going to like reunite with the wand that he's a part of essentially, and loses all of his memories and his personality. Just sure. And so you spend a lot of this route like trying to get him some of the flowers and the nectar so that you can see if that will bring him back. And it does, like as you do more of the circus events, like it brings back some more of his memories, but he never brings back his personality. He's always just like, uh-huh, yep, feels like this all happened to somebody else. And it's weird. Um, which I will say, kudos to his voice actor, because the voice actor not only voices him in the Fae version, which is like this like high squeaky version, very cute, voices him as his like regular goofy version as a human, but then also voices him as this like stoic unemotional version. So it's like he basically plays three different versions of the same character, which is kind of cool. um there are like moments where you realize like, hey, maybe there is something there, because like Leon at one point like hits on Tifalia, and Roddy's like, nope, not okay with that, my guy. And they're like, why would you not be okay with this, huh? He's like, I don't know. I just go away. Sucks. Um, the thing that I really, 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 really don't like about this route is there is this like struggle throughout of how Roddy thinks about you. Like whether he thinks of himself as like your guardian or your replacement parent, or if he thinks of you as like somebody he's in love with romantically. I'm like, oh, I don't like that. Those are two very different types of love, and they should not cross. Thanks, I hate it.
Yeah, that doesn't
Obviously,
sound great.
no, obviously he eventually picks the romantic side of it, but I'm like, the whole thing is he decided he was gonna like go reunite with the wand and lose all his memories and all that, because he realizes that he liked Tifalia romantically, but because he is immortal, he was like, well, I can't be with her. She's gonna get old and die, and I'm still gonna be around, and I can't like be a real like normal person with her and live a life. Um, Once he like gets the heart that he was tasked with getting by falling in love and admitting that he likes Tifalia, um, he ends up like getting a body, I guess. Like his body is just a normal dude body at that point. So he's just like 21 years old, and like her parents do a bunch of tests on him, like, yeah, he's just a regular guy now. Like, oh, okay, well, I guess he lives a regular lifespan at this point. Um, like it's weird, like he has to shave now and he has to like trim his hair and like, oh,
Oh no.
okay then. Interesting. Um, to drive home this whole like weirdness thing, like once you end up having a conversation with her parents, and one of the choices you have to pick to like continue the route is basically saying like you have somebody that you're interested in romantically, and her mom like figures it out of it like immediately, and her dad is big dumb energy and takes a second, but he's like, no, no, that's your older brother, you can't be in love with him, that's weird, you can't be in love with him, he's your older brother. And I'm like, you're not making this better. Roddy thinks of him as like a parent guardian. You're calling him my older brother. And I'm supposed to like be attracted to him as like a romantic partner. And this is just all and I hate it. Nope.
Nope.
I will say though, Tifalia's dad, he's a hottie. He's a turbo hottie. He has a monocle. Yeah. Big nerdy scholar dork energy. The whole time I was like, man, Tifalia, your dad. What up? But obviously it's Tifalia, so you can't do that. That'd be gross. That'd be even worse than Roddy's route. But yeah, pretty cool that her dad has really good art. Which brings me to how to date your dragon.
All right. Well, now
You're
we have to repeat everything you just talked about. Can't skip over it.
Nope, you're exactly right.
We just gotta
Because
we're just gonna replay everything again. All right. Back to the top.
because that's how this route goes. You have to entirely do the common route again.
Such a weird decision.
It's such a weird decision. Like there are some things that are beat for beat the exact same. The dialogue's the same. You can't skip it. What they should have done is let you skip all that and all the new stuff that is specifically Vilio focused. Like just stop at that.
Like every other Otome game does, or every other visual novel motif game does.
Right, exactly. Like they don't make you do the common route again just because there are new things that happen based on this character. Like that's how the rest of this game works. Is that you like pick the character that you want to date and you get like his new stuff and then you skip through the common stuff again. Nope, not this one. You have to do it all again, every single bit of it. I was real mad about it.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to do the common route. The new stuff is that Vilio keeps like sneaking off into the woods on the outskirts of town, and you find out that he's like eating fiends.
Yum.
Num 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 num. But when he eats fiends, he's like purifying them in his body because he's like the Arc Dragon. And there's only one born that is like has this ability to purify the fiends that are born from the negative emotions of humans. But it negatively affects him whenever he eats them. He in a very best case scenario, his hair turns black. In a medium case scenario, he ends up getting that weird bruise thing that I sent you that one time. That I was like, this is fine. This seems fine on his belly.
Mm-hmm.
Which felt like a weird excuse to be like, here's his shredded abs. uh and then very, very worst case scenario, his dragon form turns black. He gets black scales and he loses control. And eventually he would die. So he has decided like this is my fate, this is what I do. I eat the fiends and I save the people and then I die, and that's just how it goes. Obviously Tifalia and all the friends are like, hey, maybe no. Maybe
No.
there's another way around this. And so she's like trying to do research with her parents because she knows that they're alive in this route because Vilio's like, hey, they're here and I can undo the dragon magic and we'll see what's going on. So she like goes to see them and a fiend outbreak happens in the Scholar Tower and she gets possessed. And we've learned throughout the game that if you get possessed by a fiend, you're too far gone, you have to die. Everybody will murder you. Except for in this route, we learn there is an alternative that you can become a dragon's bride and the dragon gives half of their powers to you.
Wow, how convenient.
Yes. And so Tifalia gets taken over and she goes to him and she is basically like, I don't want you to die and I'm gonna be selfish because I really have feelings for you and this makes me sad. And he starts freaking out and he smooches her and she becomes a dragon's bride. And then you wake up and you're on the dragon island. Yay. And the dragon elder man is like, "Hi, hello, dragon's bride." And she's like, "Huh? Huh?" So she's immortal now, I guess. Cool. Or I guess like maybe he has a shortened lifespan and they have the same lifespan now. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. Either way, you're not gonna run into an issue with lifespans anymore.
No, they just
And
couldn't. They couldn't go into the explanation of that because they took so much time making you go through the common route again.
you're right, you're right. Um, and so she's in the dragon village and she asks at one point, like, okay, well, I'm here, but where is Bilio? And it turns out that he's like out kind of on a fiend rampage type thing because the fiends are taking over him. And so they're trying to come up with like a way to free him from this problem. And they found out that the previous arc dragon ended up like sealing himself in a cave with the help of his four friends, the spirits, the elemental spirits that we've known throughout the towns, and the previous king, not the previous king, but like 1,000 year ago king, but who is also hot for some reason. Like he shows up in one CG, I'm like, hello. Um, and I thought that's what the prince was gonna look like when he turned 17. It's not what the prince looks like when he's 17, but anyway, previous king hottie. Um, so you end up having to go through like a cave of trials with the power of the dragon, since dragon's bride, you can do that, and the power of the king, who is the prince. You have to go through the different trials. One of them is like the fire guy, and he basically like you chat with him, he's like, you know what, I was supposed to fight you, but I kind of like you, so I'm just gonna let you go. So have fun. Like I don't do all this intellectual stuff. Like, oh, okay, sure. Um, and you meet with the wind guy, who was the one who built Roddy. And you basically say like, "Hey, Roddy says, what's up?" And he's like, "Oh, hey, you know him? Cool. Any friend of Roddy's friend of mine. I'll let you go. It's fine." Um, Honestly, I don't remember the other two. I
They
think
were there.
I think one of them is that you have to like declare your true love and all that, which makes sense because she's the water gal who is obsessed with love. And
Hey, do you remember when we did this earlier? What if we did it again?
yeah, but dragon this time. And then I think the wind one is mainly like you have to convince her that like you're gonna do everything you can to save him, since they weren't able to save their friend the original time. And then you meet up with the king and he's like, "Yeah, I mean, this was our only option, was to seal him, and like I have regrets. It sucks. Because that was my best friend and I kind of had to kill him." And like, what if there's another way? Whoa. Um, so he basically accepts, okay, well, if you can find another way, then I'll let you go forward. At some point during this, the prince turns 17.
Just out of the blue.
Like during this sequence, he turned, I think it's during the part with the king, but he turns back into a 17-year-old body. And it's weird because like if you look at his outfit, he's got like these robes. And when he turns into a 17-year-old version, he's got the robes, but like he doesn't have anything on underneath it. So he's just like got his prince boobies out. And like, where did his shirt go that he had on? Like, is that just gone
It ripped. Sorry. Gotta get rid of it.
now? Maybe. Um, but yeah, he turns into his 17-year-old version and like helps out. And you end up getting to the dragon who's been sealed, and He's like, this is the only way. And they're like, no, there's gotta be another way. We've gotta figure this out. We don't want him to die. Blah, 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 blah. And their solution is that the the fiends are built out of like negative emotions of humans. And so, like, what if people in the world learned how to just deal with negative emotions?
That's a lofty goal.
Yeah, yeah. And so, like, if they just deal with the negative emotions, then fiends aren't born, and then he doesn't have to eat the fiends, and then he doesn't die. Woo!
Just stop being sad.
Basically.
Easy. Come
Um,
on.
and like that's the solution. It's just we'll figure out how to deal with our big sad emotions. And it's like, huh? That's the solution. That's the solution. And now you're a dragon's bride and you have dragon powers and he's fine. And you date him.
Yay.
Yay. Like I said, there's like no real like big Otome twist,
The big Atome twist is that they figured out a cure for depression. Don't be sad.
Don't be sad. Oh my god.
Very stark contrast between messages between games we've played this week and last week.
Right? Yeah, big time. I was like, is that really what we're going with here? Is don't be sad? Um so yeah, the art's really, really pretty. I will say that.
Yeah.
Um yeah, that's Radiant Tale. How to Date Your Dragon.
There you go. All right. Well, now we got to rank it.
We do.
We have how many? We got 31 games on this here list of Al's official ranking of Otome.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you want to start? Quite a lot of games here.
There are, yeah, we have, like I said, 31. Let's start at 25.
25. That is Mr. Love.
I would say it's better than Mr. Love.
Okay. Is it better than Joe Starstruck?
I would say it's better.
Is it better than Pio Fiore Episodio 1926?
I still have negative feelings about Pio Fiore, but I feel like this one was kind of mid, so what do I think here?
I mean, this is the bad Pio Fiore.
It is the bad Pio Fiore. I mean, like the difference in Pio Fiore in 1926 is stark.
Yeah, 17 spots stark.
I will say it's better than 1926.
All right, is it better than Variable Barricade?
No.
All right, we have a new 23.
Like I said, it's kind
the
of
Michael Jordan of
mid.
Otome games.
For now. Although I'm saying it's mid and it's kind of like lower mid.
Yeah, this is definitely not in the middle.
Yeah, I just feel like it didn't do anything interesting, really. Like it didn't feel very like Otome bananas that I was expecting, especially for one that's like a circus based.
Yeah.
I expected more.
This just feels more just kind of like a dating sim.
Yeah, that's exactly what it felt like. Like I wanted more weirdness out of this. And I didn't, especially like when your poster boy is a dragon.
You got a dragon, you're in a circus, and you got a clown with a boob window. You normally think there would be some wild shenanigans and some, classic just Otome things, but
right.
They played it safe here.
You got like a Pokemon and you got a thirsty boy. And it's just very, very mid.
Well, there you go.
And low mid.
Lower mid.
Lower mid.
So there is our new number 23 on the list. Radiant Tail.
Radiant
Tail.
Tail.
Right? I spelled tail right. Okay.
Tale.
Yep, not like tail, like a tail on your butt.
Tail you wag.
Yeah. But yeah, that is that's Radiant Tail.
Yeah, so hopefully the next Otome game I play is more in line with the Otome style that I like.
Yeah.
It's weird because like I was looking at reviews of this and like all the reviews I saw are just like glowing.
I feel
People
like that's happened
love
multiple
this.
times now where you have like
That's
had
how
a
1926 was.
you've had a, I guess not necessarily a negative reaction, but like a not so great reaction to a game, and then you look at the reviews and you're like, huh? Excuse me? But that's why reviews are very subjective.
Yeah, like I saw somebody give this a 9.5 out of 10. I'm like, huh?
Maybe someone just
What?
was really into Dragon Man.
I mean, they did say that they really liked him, but
Well, there you
like
go. That's probably why.
he's fine. He's like the excitable Genki character, and then he ended up being like, I don't know, don't be sad character. And I guess I just have like no tolerance for that. Get out of here with your just why don't you just don't be sad?
It's a very generic way to like wrap up a game, like because I feel like they build it up to such a point of the story, and then their finale for it or their way to get out of it is just like, don't be mad or sad. I guess I don't know. Instead of like trying something actually interesting.
Like you're in a world of magic.
Yeah, you could do literally anything.
Anything. And like you built up this whole thing where you're going through this like gauntlet of how do we get through this without having to like seal him away because this is how they previously did it. And then it's like, okay, did they even consider just not being sad last time? It's like it makes the last
Thanks.
dragon sacrifice feel so terrible. Like
uh,
they killed that other guy for no reason.
they didn't think about not being sad. Sorry, dude. We didn't come up with that yet.
God, it was like, well then, okay.
Yep.
So yeah, anyway, that's Radiant Tail.
That's Radiant Tail. It sure was radiant.
It sure was a tail.
Yep. That's gonna do it for us this week on the pod as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you'd like more from us, head on over to seasonalanimecheckup.com or sac.cool is where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Jared and Now Watch. You can also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Anladium, go to anladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. You can follow us on Twitter and TikTok at Anime Checkup. You can buy our books, One Shiny Moment, a critical analysis of Love Life Sunshine, Hot Tubs, and Pac-Man on Amazon.com. And you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Buy us a slice of pizza, get access to unedited versions of the podcast early, and a whole wealth of bonus content as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Next week, our first podcast of September.
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry.
We'll talk about something. We don't really have a set
We don't have a plan yet.
idea or plan. We'll figure it out over the next week and talk about something.
Yep.